Happy Juneteenth, everybody. This is Juneteenth, June 19th. Yeah, June 19th, Monday, June 19th, 2023. This is the first year that Juneteenth is a true 100% bona fide national holiday. That means banks are closed, the mail doesn't get delivered, people can party, have the day off, plus it's a Monday, which means that you have a 3-day weekend, which means regardless of how you feel about Juneteenth, hey, you get an extra day to sleep. You get an extra day of rest if you want to take it. That's huge. That's a cool thing. It really is. So if that's the case, so why is it that, Juneteenth for me has always been sort of a painful thing, an issue, something that I dreaded. And I thought about that a lot, long and hard, but yet not really coming to terms with what it was that was driving me, right? And I had to think about it. And so, frankly speaking, and the reason why I'm looking down is I'm actually putting this on social media as I talk, all right? And hey, everybody, frankly speaking, it was because I really have a hard time, have a hard time celebrating the fact that we were free from being dominated, okay? And what I mean by that, as far as my thinking, is I'm ashamed that we as African Americans allowed ourselves to be dominated. Now, if you want to get deep into it, you could say, well, all right, that wasn't us, that was our ancestors, and they came over from Africa and didn't know any better. But my thought was, regardless, I think Juneteenth should be, yes, a celebration of freedom, but also a reminder of what to watch out for so that the situations that created slavery don't arise again. And I'm really concerned those conversations, forgetting to take those proper looks. However, that said, I think there's some developments that in our society that point the direction toward that not happening. Okay. And one of them is our constant positive movement toward an integrated society. More interracial marriages, to the point now where it's common to see them represented in commercials and movies and television, particularly black-white. Let's take the UK and the Lazarus Project. It features a black man, has a white wife. That's not the story, thankfully. The story is about his weird job and his weird abilities and the fact that she doesn't know it and then gets killed, and then what happens to her later, right? Think of what I just said. That's got nothing to do with what we used to expect when we saw interracial pairing in a movie or television program. It was about them and the racism, right? No. And that has been a gradual trend to the point where today we can say, we can watch people who are like us. I've had white girlfriends. The woman I invited to the prom in high school was of Chinese descent. She didn't go with me, April, doggone it. But it wasn't that she didn't like me, just, I think, a lot of complications. But I've had African-American girlfriends, I've had Puerto Rican girlfriends, I've had, you get the idea. And so we're at a place in our society where not only is all that okay, but we're beyond the point where we need to talk about it. And we're at the point where we're in a city, suburb, excerpt, we can go to a place and see all types of folks and enjoy them and get to know them as individuals. That's the gigantic positive, which would theoretically point away from any return to a climate that would produce slavery, theoretically, okay? But then there are elements that concern. There's this tendency, if you put up a video, for someone white to get more clicks than someone black, and that's algorithmic, because that kind of racism can be engineered out, but it's not done. It's not done. And it has dramatic negative implications for even how we consume news. So that something about an African-American person or by an African-American person, all right? So ultimately, the point that I'm making is that I've come to terms with Juneteenth because it is a celebration of freedom, or should be. But for me, what we need to talk about regarding the future is making absolutely certain we have our eyes open to what the next step in the expression of racism might be, so that we can combat it. And my concern is tech-based. We're not tech savvy enough to really understand at this point how our own technology is being used to subordinate us, okay? Again, how our own technology is being used to subordinate us as African Americans. There should be a Black-owned media. It should be funded. But efforts, for example, in California to fund media, if you take a look, if you think about it, wind up supporting white-owned media as opposed to media, period. There's no provision in the legislation to say, let's make absolutely certain media for those Black and minority media organizations. But guess what? If you don't see it, they don't get compensated, right? It's a big problem. It's a big problem, okay? A gigantic one, all right? So we need to think about that. We need to think about the kind of messages that we're sending. But enjoy Juneteenth. Enjoy the celebration of freedom, but always keep your eyes open. And get on Google and other search engines and ask them why Black media isn't supported, because it's not. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com and Zenny62.com. And support Zenny62 Media Incorporated. Thank you.